Welcome to Totes Professional Gaming. Today we're doing something a little different. It's still a review, it's still on PS5, but not on the Pro. However, it's an older video and script that I put together last year or maybe even the year before that I wasn't that fully satisfied with, and I hadn't put through the channel yet, so I posted it on another channel, lost the login, all of that. But rather than let the work go to waste, I thought I'd post it here anyway on this new channel, where there's a bit more structure. I'm always learning, and I would appreciate any feedback that you may have so that I may get better at this. Thank you. The Medium was first released in January 2021 on Windows and Xbox Series S and X. It was subsequently released on the PlayStation 5 in September of the same year. I will be talking about how I felt playing it, what stood out for me, any frustrating gameplay mechanics, and some minor story spoilers in the video behind my face, my voice. But at the time of writing, I'm probably about an hour or two away from finishing the game, so bear that in mind, but I highly doubt that there'll be any additional big gameplay changes so late in the day. I'm only playing the Medium now because it became available on PS Plus. I'm pretty grateful for that service because it gives me a chance to try out games I wouldn't normally buy. The game is made by a company called Bloober Team. I've not played any of their games before, so right. Enough preamble for God's sake. What's the game like? It's kind of weird, very weird. In fact, you start the game in some guy's apartment. The main character, Marianne, and the environment are very well designed and detailed and have a creepy vibe to them. And the game introduces you to its common mechanics within the first couple of rooms that you explore. So you learn to move your character, interact with objects, and use some kind of psychic power to reveal hidden objects and clues in the environment. Now, the implementation of this psychic power, let's call it spirit vision, it's somewhat like the detective vision first done in Arkham Asylum, except this one is less detailed, but it's much more focused on the smaller immediate area around your character. So you slowly find notes and diaries that flesh out the background of the apartment owner and your relationship to them and yourself. And you also hear your character narrating her thoughts, which is pretty useful as she doesn't exactly interact with many NPCs in the game, so it's good to hear her think. The main focus of the game is exploration and puzzle solving. Minor spoiler for the opening chapter here. So Marianne, the main character, lived in a funeral home with her foster dad, and he passed away recently. You need to get his body ready for a funeral. Now this is where it gets interesting. Once the body is ready, Marianne can also access like a parallel metaphysical world where she can interact with the soul of the departed and send their souls off. So this sort of spirit world mechanic, I found that to be the most interesting part of the game. It reminded me a little bit of Soul Reaver on the PS1, or even Prince of Persia Warrior Within, where you would sort of go back in time, change something, and go back to the present, and that thing has changed now in the present, and vice versa. Except in the medium, there's no time travel. You're literally in both worlds at the same time in split screen, and your movement in one world or your actions in one world are reflected in the other world in real time. So the first time I saw this, I was kind of blown away, to be honest, and I spent way too much time just making real world Marianne walk around the environment to see how well Spirit Marianne would replicate the actions. Another cool thing to note is that sometimes you enter a room and there's a locked door, but in the spirit world that door is unlocked, so you can hold the circle button and have like a sort of out of body experience where you switch full control to Spirit Marianne and explore what's beyond that locked door pretty freely. And this can lead to some interesting puzzle solving situations. Now, I found some of it frustrating, especially late in the game, but when I took my time and explored a bit, I pretty much always found a solution to the puzzles. For the few times where I didn't, then I looked up a text guide. But I reckon most players would enjoy this game for this split screen spirit world mechanic alone, and I would love to see this in other games. Trust me, this was really fun. There isn't any traditional combat in this game. It's more defensive than anything. You eventually unlock like a spirit shield that lets you walk through a swarm of moths. Oh yeah, there are moths in a few parts of the game. And later on, the spirit shield may help defeat some enemies, and you'll also use the environment and puzzle solving to do so, but the game doesn't feature many of those situations, or even many enemies. There is, however, one enemy that sort of acts like Tyrant or Nemesis in Resident Evil games that kind of follows you around and you have to hide and you can't fight the thing. So you've got the stealth sections where you basically just avoid the creature as opposed to fight it, like playing a cat and mouse game. Those sections are pretty short, but they are quite rewarding and really help sort of build up the tension in the game and the story. Now, as I mentioned earlier, the game is primarily about exploration, finding clues and unraveling the story behind the main character, while occasionally sending spirits off. The game excels at creating tension through its camera angles. It reminded me of the early Resident Evil games, lighting and the environments. To be honest, for me, the big standout is the sound design. I made the mistake of playing the game on a standard TV, with the sound down while I listen to a podcast, because that's how I normally play. Blame ADHD. But last night I put my headphones on, and lo and behold, it was transformative, and I immediately regretted not using the headphones before. So if you don't have a fancy sound system at home, please do use your headphones. Please, please, please. You'll thank me. It is so much more immersive, and there is so much detail in the sound design, the way footsteps sound at different surfaces, background objects interacting with the weather, other characters or creatures' voices. It all sounds just so crisp, and it really adds to the atmosphere of the game and helps immerse you into the story. There's another sort of smaller mechanic that where you can pick up an object, use your sort of spirit insight powers, your spirit vision, try and find a memory associated with that object. It's hard to describe, so I'll try and put it on screen. But even those moments when you find that memory and you listen to the memory, you listen to the character speak who had interacted with that object before, even those moments with the headphones on made it so much more of a personal experience. Now, as for the environments, the game occurs mostly within dilapidated areas of an abandoned resort in the wilderness. The environments don't feel as unique the further you get into the game, but the parallel spirit world split screen sections inject a lot more life and interactivity into them, and it encourages you to explore. There are collectibles that flesh out the story, but they're not frustratingly hidden. They're just enough of a challenge to be fun, but also satisfactorily enough. You won't be feeling like you're playing Assassin's Creed Valhalla, for example. No spoilers here. I found the story intriguing as it kept unraveling. I wanted to know more and more. I mean, there are some tropes that I didn't really enjoy, but generally the story was good. The DualSense integration isn't great. I didn't really notice much use of the adaptive triggers, if any, and the vibration was very basic and generic, like when you climb up a ledge, it goes brr, irrespective of the effort the character put in. Just climb, brr, again. The chase scenes could have really used a better implementation of vibration to make it feel more immersive, and also I wish the character animation was a little smoother and maybe faster when they climb up ledges. Sorry, I mentioned ledges twice. It's just, I don't know why, but those actions or those scenes really bothered me. Final thoughts: if you enjoy atmospheric, spooky games and can handle a subdued and slower experience, then do play this game, as it feels like you're reading a supernatural thriller. It's been over a year since release, so I'm sure all the bugs have been patched out, and it's probably cheaper now. Or if you have PS Plus, you can just download it. Now, how would I improve it in a sequel? It's an enjoyable game, and I understand why they did a smaller, more self-contained story, but learning about Marianne's powers and her foster father just made me long for a different game, to be honest. One where I would have liked to see Marianne on her other adventures that don't have a link to her own personal backstory. Imagine her becoming a spirit detective who people call when they think the soul of a departed loved one hasn't moved on yet. So she has to go investigate the circumstances of their death, why their soul is trapped in the spirit world, and then solve the death in order to send on the soul. Maybe they could do that in a sequel and have it run like a 6-episode miniseries of a spirit detective show where each episode deals with a different soul. Now, this way you could explore different environments, meet a variety of characters, helping souls of not so innocent people to move on while also unlocking new powers. And that way each episode could have a different tone. You could have, funny episodes, sad, scary, bittersweet, awful, depending on the souls you encounter. Not all games that involve spirits have to be horror thrillers. I'd like something with the humor of Beetlejuice in parts. That's just my personal choice. Marianne herself himself is an engaging and funny character, actually, and quite self-deprecating. So I would definitely want to see more of her in other circumstances rather than in her head and being sad and morose all the time. Oh, I just thought of something. They could have an episode with a mime. Yeah, well, this will make more sense once you've played the game and you have to move a laundry cart out of the way while watching your spirit world counterpart move an invisible laundry cart out of the way. It was hilarious. To me. To me, it was hilarious. This is probably making no sense to you whatsoever now. I apologize. Well, those were my thoughts on the medium. What I've learned from making this video is that I should have kept a notepad nearby while playing the game, so I could note down things of interest to speak about. I should also have taken video clips of those early moments to put behind this voiceover, rather than the random trophy videos that you're seeing now. And I did try and record videos last night while narrating my thoughts, but it was very slow and meandering, because that's what my brain is like. So for my next video review thoughts, or whatever kind of video I make, I'll try and take my advice. Thank you for watching, and see you soon.